What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing well. Welcome to the extended cut, minimally edited podcast version of this week's episode, where we're going to dive into what I would like to call a simplified plan for starting a private practice. Okay, I'm a little embarrassed, feeling a little sheepish about this, but I'm going to kick off this episode by sharing a genuine reflection, confession, if you will. But as much as I teach about private practice, these days, when I search online for information about starting a private practice, I get so overwhelmed. So overwhelmed. There is no shortage of information. And this is a good thing. This is what we want. We want so much information, but also everyone has a slightly different take. And so do I follow so-and-so's advice, or do I follow this other so-and-so's advice? And which one's the right way to start a private practice, the best way? And it's just sometimes, does anyone else feel that way? And this is not me bashing any of the other creators, people putting this information out there. I think the more information we can get out there, the better. When I started Private Practice Skills in 2018, it was really difficult to find information about starting a private practice, and now there is no shortage of information. This is what we want. This is good. But I get overwhelmed. And I don't know if that's just telling us more about Marie and her sensitive soul. Maybe. But if you can relate with that experience, or if maybe you would just like a simplified, sustainable plan for how to start a private practice right now, this episode's for you. This is how I would go about doing things if I were starting a private practice for the first time in 2025, or restarting a private practice, gleaning from my insights of now, having been in private practice since 2012, but starting up a couple different private practices over the years. This is how I would do it today to make it feel simple and keep my sanity. I think if I were starting a private practice from scratch for the very first time today with no other information, based on what's out there on the internet and social media and YouTube and everywhere, I think I might feel overwhelmed even more now than I did in 2012, when I felt like I was overwhelmed because I had no information. It's like there's so much information. It's like drinking water through a fire hose, like analysis paralysis, all of that stuff. And I just feel like it's hard for me to explain it, but it feels very overwhelming. So if that's you, this episode's for you. If you don't relate with that, I think this episode is still going to be really helpful. This is exactly how I would do things if I were starting today, which I think goes still against quite a bit of the information that's out there. Sorry, other people out there, you're doing great. I think a lot of people looking to start a private practice will absolutely thrive with just give me the steps, I will do the steps, and then here we go. I'm off to the races. But I think a lot of us will get overwhelmed. And also there's always that risk of if I follow that person's proprietary plan, which involves, posting this many Instagram reels per week, or, posting this many blog posts per week, or whatever it is, then it may not be a good fit for everybody. It's just going to be a good fit for some folks. And then if that specific plan doesn't fit for you, then that's going to be real tricky. It's hard to sort of sell the plan for how to build a private practice when it's going to, by definition, look different from person to person if you want it to feel sustainable and authentic and built to fit you and your specific clients and all of that good stuff. So how do you package that in a quick little package? That can get a little bit more nuanced, more complicated. But hopefully some of the things that I share in this episode give you a sense of direction to make a more simplified path forward. Okay, so let's dive into the actual simplified plan. If it were me today, starting a private practice, here's what my step number 1 would be. Gather your support team. Step number 1, because this thing of starting a private practice will be overwhelming, will get complicated at times, and it will test your patience, your emotions, etc. So having a support team from the very beginning is so helpful. Your support team doesn't necessarily have to be all therapists or therapists in private practice, but we want to have a robust network of cheerleaders, supporters. It could be other people also starting their private practice. It could be people who already have, full private practices so you can glean from them, but it could be like your spouse and your friend who's willing to look over your website for you as you're building it, or, just whoever you feel is a supportive support network as you move through this. So you can define what that looks like for you. And yes, your support team absolutely can include one of these coaching programs or whatever it might be out there. But the point of my tip is that it is so valuable to have a support team because you will call on them when you have some hurdles come up along the way. The hurdles, they will come. It will get overwhelming, and it'll be so nice to have your support team there. I think a lot of people don't set up their support team first, mostly because they're like, well, I don't even know yet what I'm doing, how I'm going about it. I don't even know if maybe I'm going to do a private practice. And so let me get some things underway before I gather my support team. But I'm telling you, if you start with a support team and then do the other steps after, it will make it just so much more sustainable, so much more supportive. The next step that I wish people talked about more, but we're talking about it now, is to figure out how you're going to financially support yourself while you're getting your practice off the ground. I think sometimes this one gets skipped over because people are saying I'm going to help you get your practice off the ground in 3 months, 6 months. Here we go. And maybe you will be one of the outliers who has their practice totally off the ground in 3 or 6 months, that you are in a better financial situation after just a few months than you were before you started your private practice. But for most of us, it takes a bit of a runway. And if we want it to be a sustainable and aligned practice, like the practice that we want and love, that we are just best aligned to serve our favorite types of clients, it will probably take longer than just a few months to really generate some serious income. There are ways to do it much faster, but then you run the risk of potentially building a practice that you don't super love. So trade-offs. So all that to say, if you can create a plan to financially be able to support yourself while you assume that it's going to take a pretty decent runway to get your practice off the ground and really profitable, that I think is a winning situation. So if you're already at a day job that maybe you hate it, but you can hang with it for another 6 months or 9 months or something like that, and you're willing to, work on building your practice during, evenings and weekends or something like that, that could be an option. Or if you're able to, financially make it work, if you scale back your current job part-time and while you work on private practice on the side or something like that. What I see happen, and I still see this, is therapists quitting their job and then starting their private practice, renting the office. I mean, this is a little bit dated, renting the office before you start anything else, when most people, I think, do start virtual these days, but kind of setting up everything for private practice and then hoping that you can pay your bills for however many months or longer it takes to actually generate a profit. So if you can figure out a way to make this sustainable for definitely at least 6 months, if not longer than that, from a financial point of view, then that's going to set you up for success, because then there's less pressure on your practice to turn a profit and more space and opportunity to build a practice that, yes, eventually will turn the profit that you're looking for, but that will be sustainable in the meantime, that you're not scrambling to figure out how to cover your expenses, pay your bills, and all of that. And kind of tied with this, my suggestion for most folks is to assume that you're going to start private practice part-time and then build to it being full-time. Now, don't get me wrong, there are always exceptions. There are some folks for whom the quit your job and then dive straight into private practice full-time is financially reasonable or sustainable in different levels. But for most people, I'm just speaking on average, for most people, for most of us, starting part-time and building up slowly is going to be much more likely to succeed, much more sustainable. So once you have your support team gathered and you figured out how you're going to sustain things financially for a period before you've actually started turning a profit with your practice, it's time to carve out time in your schedule. When would you start seeing clients if you had clients? Where would they go in your schedule? And carve out that time and hold it sacred. Even if you don't see your first client for 3 months or 6 months, just put the time slots in your calendar, and those will be the time slots that you use to start growing, building your practice, even though you don't have any clients that you're seeing yet. If you're having trouble finding any time in your schedule, then I think that's a signal that you probably don't have enough time available right now that's required to start building a private practice. So that's a good question to stay with, and make sure there's enough time in your schedule to actually work at this. It doesn't actually have to be that much time, to be honest. Like, you don't need 20 hours a week to start building a practice. Of course, the more time you can carve out in your schedule, the more quickly you can get things off the ground. But the more time you carve out in your schedule, the less time you have to do other things like generating income elsewhere to pay your bills while you're not seeing clients yet. So everything in balance. But even if, let's say, there's like half a day a week that you can just hold sacred and dedicate towards your practice, or maybe it's, 3 1-hour time slots throughout the week, like hold those sacred and use those times to follow through on the next steps. Okay, the next tip that feels really important when it comes to building a sustainable private practice is that whenever you are sitting down to do anything private practice building related, it's so important to do so from a sense of your core self, or from a DBT point of view, like from wise mind. And part of that is making sure that you aren't hurrying, you aren't hustling, you aren't striving in a way that pulls you out of your sense of like core identity and values, the kind of person that you want to be in the world, in your personal life and in your practice. This is something that I see a lot, that folks understandably build their private practice from a place of like, hurry up, I need to make money like yesterday. I don't know if I'm going to be able to fill my practice if I lean into, building the practice that I quote unquote would love. So let me just make sure I hurry and find any way to get clients on my schedule. Again, for totally understandable reasons. And then you find these ways to sort of hurriedly fill your practice, and then fast forward, and maybe you're paying your bills, but you might not really love the practice that you've built. And if that's what you're looking to do, more power to you. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. But I think for a lot of us, and for myself at least, we're looking to build a private practice not only because, we're hoping we can like pay our bills without being overworked and all of that, but like we're looking for a more sustainable way to do our career. And the best way to have a sustainable private practice is to make sure you build a practice where you are working with folks that you are best equipped to work with, that you find most energizing to work with, most values aligned to work with. And so if that is a practice that you ultimately want as your end goal, it's important that you bring that values alignment with you all the way from the beginning, that you're staying grounded in your sense of self and your values as you build your practice. Like if you think of it like dating, if let's say you are of the mindset of like, you're dating because you want to find the person that you want to commit to for the rest of your life, and you want to hurry up and, cross that altar, or, enter that level of commitment ASAP. If you get too far into that, like, I need to have that committed life partner ASAP, then you can get so kind of anxiously leaning into that goal that you lose touch with being in the present moment and just like enjoying time with a new person that you're getting to know, and kind of pulled out of your sense of self. So then now, not only are you probably not really enjoying the process of dating because you're so focused on this end goal, but you're also like pulled out from yourself, and you're not probably really getting an accurate or sustainable understanding of like how compatible you are with this person versus that person. And if you really want to have a sustainable, lifelong committed partner, it'd be really, really helpful to show up as your most authentic, grounded self from day one, so that you can really, truly evaluate and be who you are in that relationship. See how that shakes out. I don't know if that made sense. That might have been a stretch, but hopefully that was helpful to some of you. I actually made an episode a little while back about building a values-based career that, of course, like is not clickbaity, and so it didn't do very well, but I really stand by this. I think sometimes the most meaningful messages, most helpful messages are the ones that are less like exciting, like how to build a values-based career. But like, if we're honest with ourselves, if we get to retirement age, whenever that is for each of us, and we look back at our career, like, are we going to be most proud of ourselves for like hustling as quickly as possible and getting things off the ground faster than, somebody else or whatever? Or are we going to be more proud of saying like, wow, I really took my time and I built this thing that I really can stand by. I really love this. For me, at least, building a values-based life, including in my career, is one of my greatest values. Well, that's kind of inception-y. I won't trail off on that, but you can chew on that and see what you want to do with it. And I'll link to that video that I made before in the description of this episode. Before we get into the next tip, I'd like to thank Powbox for sponsoring today's episode. It wasn't until a couple years ago that I first learned that even with a signed BAA, Google Workspace and Microsoft 365 can't guarantee that 100% of the messages going in and out are HIPAA secure. So without a tool like Powbox operating on the back end, it's almost impossible to stay HIPAA secure unless you forego email altogether. Even if you exclusively use a secure portal to discuss protected health information with your clients, there's still going to be potential clients reaching out initially, and also some clients who will still try to email you because, I don't know, they forgot their password for their portal and they're trying to reach out. So with a tool like Powbox, you can guarantee that every single message is protected. Powbox is super easy to set up, and it's kind of a one and done situation. Like, you just spend a few minutes initially setting it up, and then it's just continuously quietly running in the background. Powbox offers a 14-day free trial to everybody, and they're offering a special discount to Private Practice Skills listeners. Just use coupon code SKILLS at checkout in order to receive $250 off your first year of Powbox. That's Powbox spelled Paubox. Thank you again to Powbox for sponsoring this episode, and now on to my next tip. Okay, and then the next step that I would take, the next tip, I don't know, are these tips or steps? I lost track. But at this point, once you have all of these things underway, here's what I would do next. I would start building a marketing strategy. I know we're going all kinds of out of order here, but this is how I would order things if I were doing it for myself. So whether that's a good fit for you or not, you can determine that. But the reason why I find it so valuable to develop a marketing strategy before you jump into those like nitty-gritty logistical steps of like, okay, am I going to have a virtual practice or an in-person practice? Am I going to accept insurance or be cash pay or hybrid? Am I, the long list of very important, like, get a city business license, and I may have to get liability insurance, and all of those things that you absolutely have to do before you start seeing therapy clients. The reason why I start with a marketing strategy first is if you have proof of concept in your marketing strategy, then it flows much more easily to dive into the rest of those logistical steps that when we don't yet have a tested, proven marketing strategy, and we're trying to dive into okay, I need to get a city business license, and I need to get some liability insurance, and I need to set up my website, and I need to get a HIPAA secure email, and a blah, 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 blah. Then it feels like trudging through mud. It feels overwhelming. And we don't even know, after we pay for all of these things and set everything up, if it's even going to work. We might be in debt potentially from setting up all these things that cost money. When if we start with a marketing strategy, potentially one that costs little or no money, then we can make sure that we have potential clients already getting referred to us before we've ever spent a dime on our practice. Okay, so let's keep talking about this a little bit more. Like, how do you go about setting up a marketing strategy? Obviously, not an easy question to answer. And so it could be tempting to say okay, well, what's the marketing strategy that I hear the most people talk about, or, the most people recommend, or what's the marketing strategy that, so-and-so expert said is the most effective strategy, and just hit that hard. But in my experience, if you want a sustainable practice, and if you want an effective marketing strategy, honestly, that fills your practice, it has to be a marketing strategy that aligns with you, your unique skill sets, your unique values, and also an avenue that is kind of setting you up for success, that you're actually reaching your target demographics. So when you're trying to figure out what the best marketing strategy is for your practice, I think rather than asking the question like, what's the most effective marketing strategy for other therapists, the question should be, what's the most effective marketing strategy for me and my practice? And considering all the facets of who you are, the kind of practice you're wanting to build, and who your ideal clients are. Now, clearly, figuring out a marketing strategy is not just like okay, quick, slap together cute little marketing strategy. Like, this takes work. This is the part that isn't just a quick little list of like, get a city business license and set up your liability insurance and things. It's like, you need to introspect. You need to do some work figuring out what kinds of clients you like to work with. You need to do some work figuring out your niche. And that takes time. It takes introspection. It takes elbow grease. It takes trying something on, saying that doesn't fit quite right, adjusting it again, trying it on again, and putting in some work. I don't think there is an easy shortcut to this part of it. But though it does take so much work to build your marketing strategy, I will say this is where that energy is most worthwhile, where you're going to get the biggest payout for your energy put in. Because if you can develop a marketing strategy that aligns with your values, aligns with your skill sets, is an approach that you enjoy leaning into, then all of that is going to shine through. And assuming that you are doing a good job speaking directly to the needs of your ideal clients, they're going to see all of that come through. That like, it's not like you're just trudging through mud to get that social media post up that you hated putting together, but it's like you really enjoyed talking about or putting together whatever marketing approach you utilized, whether it is networking or public speaking or social media or blogging or something else. If you like it, that'll come through. Like, I like making these YouTube videos, so hopefully you can tell that I'm not faking it. I'm glad to be here. And so that's a marketing strategy for private practice skills. Well, I'm hopefully also helping somebody, which is part of an effective marketing strategy, is that you're usually helping somebody. Okay, this episode isn't just about the marketing strategy, so we won't trail off on that. If you'd like some help with honing in on your marketing strategy, because it is kind of a beast, then I have lots of videos about it. I will link to a playlist all about marketing strategy in the description of this episode. And I also have a training all about building a sustainable marketing strategy that fills your practice called the Client Attraction System. And this is something I've been thinking about for a while, but I think this episode is where I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to drop the price of that training. I'm just looking for more ways to make all of this private practice stuff more accessible. So I think it's time to lower the price. So if you're interested in that, or you were kind of on the fence about that, I'll link to it below and you can check that out as well. I think if you can spend some time, some elbow grease, some effort on building a marketing strategy that is a great fit, that is such a key piece of what makes this sustainable. When you enter into private practice, you are offering some sort of curated experience rather than a sort of cookie cutter experience most of the time. And so when you spend some time putting energy into how you are going to uniquely market your practice, then that's going to set you up for success as far as like clients looking for not a cookie cutter experience. They're maybe looking for something very specific that you have to offer, and also set you up for success that like you can literally design the practice that you would love to work in and just share it with other people. Like that's a special gift, I think. I love that so much. Like, still, anyway, I could trail off on just how grateful I am of like potential clients reaching out and contacting me. I'm thinking like, this, yes, thank you. I'm so excited to work with you. You're exactly who I want to help. So, it's worthwhile. And yes, I am aware that at this point you have not set up your practice at all. You are just setting up the systems that will set up your practice for success. But it is, I think, a great idea to start marketing yourself before you've started your practice within reason, and also check within like your specific jurisdiction of like what kind of marketing can you do when you're not yet accepting clients. But, you know, let's say your chosen primary marketing strategy involves networking. Network away. Meet as many people as you can, and maybe you're framing it as like coming soon. I'm planning on starting to open my practice, next quarter or in 6 months or whatever your runway is, and start building those connections. Or if your marketing strategy is through building a website and blogging, you can have a website and a blog without having other business structures underway. Of course, again, double check within your jurisdiction and things like that. But as long as you're not saying anywhere that you're accepting clients, you can start speaking to the pain points of your ideal clients on your blog and offering, appropriate supportive resources there that then once you're accepting clients, you can just add that on to your website and make it available. The idea here is you want to establish proof of concept before you've really invested a bunch of money in your practice. You're investing your time and your energy to see, can I actually get clients to fill my practice? Is this strategy working? Do I need to shift my strategy? And you might need to shift your marketing strategy a number of times before you land on one that starts bringing people. And you're going to hit a point if you use this approach where you're going to start having people asking like, wait, are you taking new clients? When did you say you're opening your practice? And are you open to a referral? That's going to start coming up if your marketing strategy is effective and successful. And those are all clues that then you might be ready to start considering opening your doors. And the last piece that is very important is as you hit hurdles, especially the emotional hurdles, and they will come. They will come and they will come to get you. When you hit those emotional hurdles, like whether it's imposter syndrome or, any variation of self-doubt or like, can I do this? Do I have enough experience? All those things that come up for folks that get in the way, turn to your support team. That's why they are there. Or, if you hit logistical snags, like, I don't know, I've been staring at this screen for 2 hours and I don't know what I'm missing, or I don't know what else to fix here. Can I have another set of eyes to look at my website? Or, who else can I contact in my networks? Can you help me find other folks that I can network with, or whatever your marketing strategy is? They can help you through all the different snags of emotional and logistical hurdles. Don't be scared to turn to your support team. Let them know that you're hoping to build a team of people that you can reach out to, so they know it's coming. And then you just keep plugging away at this using those time slots that you carved out in your calendar to keep building on your existing marketing strategy. Once you start having referrals coming, that's the time that sort of pulls the trigger on saying like, okay, it is now time to start setting up my practice. And maybe you're setting it up virtually from home part-time, and you can just take on a couple clients on the side of your existing job, or however you want to set it up. I'm just offering a simplified option that feels manageable and sustainable. If you need help knowing what that logistical list of stuff is that you have to go through, like setting up your city business license, liability insurance, all that, I have a free checklist. I will link to that below. It's definitely a list. It definitely takes some time, but it's also like very practical. Like just, okay, check your check boxes as you go. And of course, if everything's working smoothly, if you want to keep scaling up your practice, then you can. Or if you'd like to just keep things smaller because that's what fits best for you, then you can do that too. I mean, that's what I'm doing. I still have a half-time practice while I put out private practice skills content, and that's been a good fit for me for several years now, actually. So well, however you want to do it. I feel the need to say that because sometimes even I feel that pressure when I hear that messaging about scaling up your practice. And then it's like, am I supposed to be scaling up my practice? I'm only seeing 8 or 9 clients a week. Is that wrong? And no, it's not wrong. That's literally what I want. And I'm turning people away. So you build the practice you want. If you want to scale it up, you can. If you like it where it's at, keep it where it's at. It's all good. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. You can build it the way you want it. Well, I hope this is helpful to you wherever you might be at. If you're thinking about starting a private practice, maybe you've been chipping away at it for a while, but it feels like a slog, that this offered a simplified approach. And remember, if you want any help with marketing or that free checklist, I've linked to all of it below, as well as a whole bunch of videos that I've made about all the different stuff that we talked about. So it's all in the description if you're interested. Well, I hope this was helpful to you. I'm sending all my well wishes your way. If you already have started your practice or you have a successful practice, if you have any tips for what helped simplify that process for you, feel free to share those in the comments as well so that other people can glean from your experience. Because I'm just me. I'm just one person sharing my experience, but we all can chime in. And until next time, from one therapist to another, I wish you well.